Hello, this is Jeff, and I'm back with another little coloring tutorial. I've been doing some work in the book World of Flowers by Johanna Basford. It's her latest book that came out late last year. And as I was working on some flowers, as well as a bird in a previous book of hers called Magical Jungle, I was actually coloring these on my Twitch stream, and somebody asked how I was doing a particular gradient. So I thought that would be a good tutorial to do. So today I'm going to be showing you how I do a 3-color gradient. Today I'll be using these Polychromos pencils, just so that you know that's light cadmium yellow, cadmium orange, and scarlet red. And then on another flower, I'll be using some prismacolors, just so that you can see how it's done with both types. And I'm using Parma Violet, Lilac. Let me get these in view. Here we go. Lilac, Grade Lavender, and Parma Violet. So that's what I'll be using there. So we'll start with the Polychromos pencils. Now there are a couple different ways that you can do this. Usually what I do is I start from both ends of the area that's going to have the gradient. And in this case, for example, I'm just going to be doing this flower right here. So I'll just start here at the bottom. And yeah, I could do the whole flower but at once, but which I likely will, but it'd be easier to show you in just one small section of petal. So I bring this up about not quite halfway. And then I've used medium pressure here. And then once I get up to about this point, I just barely am touching the paper because I want this to sort of fade off into nothing. So that's what I'm doing there. And then I'm using the darkest pencil that I'll be using, which is this one. This is the Scarlet Red. It's kind of funny they call it Scarlet Red because it looks kind of orangey, doesn't it? I think that's kind of fun, actually. And at the tip, I'm using medium pressure again. And this time I don't go all the way down as far as I did going up with the lighter color. In fact, I just barely make the tip dark of this area, and then I just slowly bring it down like that. So, and then again, try to get it down into nothingness. Now we come in with the cadmium orange, and I'm basically going to start from the top, since this is a layering pencil. Start dropping the color in up here at the top, and bring it on down like so. And then have it sort of taper off at about the point where the yellow comes in. Now, like most of us, I tend to swap between pencils constantly. So now I'm going to go back in and sort of start cleaning up the dividing line here between the light orange and the yellow, making the yellow a bit stronger here at the bottom. And I'll bring back in with the Scarlet Red. And do the tip right there. Make the tip nice and red. Bring it on down a little bit. And then, using the orange, at here where it's going from the light orange to the yellow, I'm barely touching. Now the reason that I put in the yellow down here first is because when you're layering with a colored pencil, the color that goes down first will dominate the end result of what you're looking at. So if I put down this first and then put the yellow on top of it, this area would look more like the light orange and less like the yellow. So I'm trying to get the light orange to sort of fade out and become the yellow. So I put mostly the yellow down first, and then I'm using the orange to connect the two. And then just very gently, barely touching the paper here and the previous pigment. And there you have it. Doesn't that look nice? That's pretty nice, isn't it? I love doing this technique just because it looks really cool. And you know, people will look at what you've colored and they're like, how did you do that? And you're like, oh, it's just easy. That's just how I do it. Also, sometimes I'll go over that area completely with the lightest color to help blend all of the pigment together. Now, I'll come back to finish that later, but let me show you what this looks like when I use a Prismacolor. Now, here we have 3 different purples. And we're going to start again. This time I'm going to be doing one of the petals here. In fact, I'll do this largest petal. Let me just make sure this is still going to stay on camera. And this time I'll put the lightest color at the tip. This is the grade lavender. And then I'll use this darkest color, which is the Parma Violet. I'll drop that into the bottom. Now, the thing about the Polychromos versus the Prismacolor is a Prismacolor pencil is more for blending since it's a waxed-based pigment. The Polychromos pencils, on the other hand, are an oil-based pigment, and they lend more to layering. But either way, you can get a decent look using just 3 pencils that are fairly close to each other in color family. And again, bringing this up very, very gently. And I'm coming in here with the lilac to sort of blend the two together. Now, if you're using Prismacolors for this, what you can do at this point is if you get enough pigment down and you're afraid of putting more pigment on top of it to blend, you can then use either a blender pencil if you happen to have one, or you can come in with white. Let me go get my white pencil. Oh, and find that ugly thing. Where did it go? Yep, this is close enough. It's a 10% French gray. And you just very lightly, going in little circles here, adds a little bit of white or whatever color. Like I said, 10% gray I think works okay since we're using grade lavender at the tip. And that helps blend everything together. So now I'm going to come back with the Parma Violet and just darken up this very bottom edge. Because one thing you're trying very hard not to do when you're doing a blend, especially with the Prismacolor pencils, is you're trying not to get the tooth so full of pigment that you can't add more pigment. That's called burnishing. And so if you ever hear that about, you know, did you burnish the paper, or this paper has been completely burnished, that's what they're talking about, is you put so much pigment into the paper that you can't put any more color down because there's just nowhere for it to go. Okay, going back to the grade violet, top of that, and then finally we'll go back to the lilac and sort of bring all 3 together, sort of creating a bridge between the two. And there we go. While it's not as clear of a gradation as the Polychromos pencil is, it looks nice. You can get a decent result with just 3 pencils. Just make sure that you're using 3 pencils that are fairly close. You wouldn't want to use, say, a green and a red with a brown in the middle. That probably wouldn't look very good. Or at least anything that would be too difficult to try to blend from one to another. But there we go. That's about what I do when I use 3 pencils to create a gradient. Thank you for liking and subscribing. and for watching all of my videos, and I hope that you'll stick with me as I've got some more stuff coming up in the near future. Until then, thanks again, and goodbye.